variety of past Vishwa Talks on various interesting topics. It is an absolute honor to welcome you all to today's Vishwa Talk session and to introduce our distinguished speaker, Ms. Manisha Dayanand. Manisha ji is the founder and lead consultant of Srishti Hyderabad, and a compassionate professional who brings with her over 25 years of transformational experience as a facilitator, psychologist, counselor, and a coach. She is a certified practitioner in REBT from the Ellis Institute, USA, trained in behavior modification from NIMH, and an Erickson certified coach, among many other global credentials. She also holds a master's in applied psychology with a specialization in organizational behavior and is amongst the selected women worldwide trained through Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women program at ISB. Over the years, Manisha ji has contributed 10,000 plus hours of training and facilitation and 5,000 plus hours of coaching and mentoring, working across diverse industries such as IT, manufacturing, FMCG, education, infrastructure, NGOs, and government bodies. She has partnered with leading organizations including Intel, Amazon, Tata Motors, HSBC, Dr. Reddy's, Teach for India, and many more. Her work spans a wide spectrum from leadership development, mindfulness, and workplace well-being to women's leadership, maternity sensitization, unconscious bias, and building respectful, inclusive workplaces. What sets her apart is her deeply empathetic and client-centered approach through which she creates space of trust, reflection, and breakthrough. Beyond her consulting practice, she has also served as a visiting faculty at St. Francis College for Women, guiding postgraduate and diploma students in counseling, organizational behavior, and human resource development. With her blend of academic depth, practical wisdom, and human connection, Manisha ji continues to inspire individuals and organizations to become more resilient, mindful, and impactful. Welcome, Manisha ji. As we dive into today's interesting discussion, I would like to inform the audience that our speaker will be taking questions from you after the main talk. So please leave your questions in the chat box or use the raise hand tool in the React section of Zoom, and we will allow you to ask your questions in person. I request everyone to turn on your webcam for the interactive part of the webinar. I request you to keep the questions concise and short. Please limit the interaction part to questions, and you can share your experiences, opinions, and perspectives in the chat box. So without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Manisha Dayanand as she shares her inspiring journey and valuable insights into aging well, strengthening cognitive and emotional well-being after 60. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, Trishant. Good morning, everyone. And hello, if people are joining from other parts. So just to be inclusive. I will just add one more thing to my introduction. The fact that while my major work experience has been in organizations, this part, which I'm talking about, the cognitive well-being in elderly, has started like a passion project for me. With my parents coming to a certain age, well, I'm at a tender young age of 54. So my parents are in their 80s and middle 80s and beginning of the 80s, my mom and dad. And I started realizing about 10 years ago that there were some major changes happening with them that started concerning me about their well-being in general. So over the last 10 years, a lot of things that I have done to help them and seen the results of that, as well as helping other friends and their parents in the space, made it something like, I kind of kept a diary, and I thought that this is something I would love to share with people and see how we all can together be healthier and live well in our ages, as we age, sorry. So today's topic is about what does cognitive well-being in elderly mean? How do we, when we talk about cognition, we're talking about our faculties of thinking. We're looking at how does our brain really start changing as we age? What do we really need to do? I think the learning objective slides, the second one, Rakesh, please. The second slide. so that everyone can read along, as I say. So we want to look at what is cognitive aging and what is its impact on our everyday life. How do we want to take control of that? How do we know whether there is a risk, whether it's like, aging means slowing down? And I think those of you who have seen that in others or who are in that age group know those little changes, and sometimes they confuse us. Sometimes they make us more anxious and worried, which again is not good for us. How do we recognize, reduce them, and what can we do proactively to keep our brain healthy and active? Okay, so let's start with this little quick activity. So while I don't want you to, really answer, I want you to participate and reflect as I ask you the question and notice what's coming up for you. If you have a pen and paper, feel free to write down those answers. Otherwise, just keep them in mind and go through the iterations that I'm going to take you through. Okay. So the next slide, please. My question to you. What do you remember? We're going to play this game. So tell me what you try to recall everything that you've done since morning today. Very quickly go through, notice how fast you're able to recall, like from the time you woke up till now. Now go back a day before. What did you have for lunch yesterday? Now think about 3 days back. Let's be specific, get down to maybe say a Wednesday. What were you doing that day? Now going back to Monday, what were you doing on Monday? What was happening with you? Notice if you're taking longer and longer time to recall the data. Now let me hear some responses. You can post your responses in the chat box, or you can unmute and quickly answer in a second. How easy was it to access the immediate data, which is from today morning? And how difficult was it to kind of move back into Wednesday and Mondays? And how quick are you to unmute and respond or type or chat or look at where is the chat? Yes. Okay. So it is kind of tougher to recall something which has happened. Now, if I ask you to remember something like, say, a day, what did your school uniform look like? What does your, the childhood home look like? And you'll notice that immediately and instantly an image pops up. It's not that difficult to remember and recall, is it? So what we want to understand is why these differences? What is really happening? One is that when I'm asking you to remember what happened yesterday, today, we're kind of asking your working memory and top of the line, what's really happening in the last few days, and how much of attention have you paid to those activities. Compared to when you were much younger, one is the number of times, the number of years you've spent in the same environment, and how deeply it has become encoded. So a lot of times when we are talking about recalling or remembering, which is one of the things that people talk about memory and aging, is that are we really encoding or remembering information in the same way? Are we even paying attention and noticing in the same way? So you'll know that when we were younger, when we are children, we are excited about just about everything in life. So everything is new, right? From a new pencil, a new color, to a new kind of eraser, to new people that we meet. It's like the brain is paying intense attention and recording everything. Now, as we grow older, we start relying on this database that has been created. And sometimes consciously, we aren't even making note of things. So, this process of retaining and recalling kind of becomes limited as we grow older to the activities that we do, to the groups of people, and to the kind of things that we do. And that's one of the things that you want to keep in mind about brain. So, the next slide. So, what do we talk when we talk about mental health, well being, cognitive aging, or brain health? What do we want to know? There are these three main areas. One is how you think, feel, learn, remember, recall, which we just talked about. The second is the emotional functions. How do you interpret and respond to emotions? It changes over time. When you're younger, sometimes you tend to access emotions more easily, you're more volatile, you react more. And as you grow older, you tend to notice a slight dulling in the emotions as well. Dulling meaning not that you don't feel, but you've learned how to regulate them and manage them. And that's the positive side. And on the negative side, you're probably suppressing them and you've kind of blunted them so you don't feel them anymore. So, where the positive part, while it's helpful, the negative doesn't do much for your brain health. The third is the physical function. How well do you move, balance, your hand coordination, the eye coordination, your physical balance, and you know that those motor functions also change with aging. And the sensations of touching and feeling and controlling the fine motor skills, part of it. Now, all of these factors are very critical to your brain health. While a lot has changed in the world around us, and the internet and everything has made things like that quick for us, information is available just about on everything that you want to access. The fact is that our brain still operates in the old um, time, age, fashion, and it doesn't work with the way the speed that the technology works. And when I say that, I don't mean to say that your brain can't be fast. It is just that it needs its own processing speed to mature, to grow, for the functions to happen. Our body processes aren't as upgraded as the rest of the world in the speed. So, what do we need to do? We need to learn to identify factors that can keep our brain health really, really strong. And when we say brain health strong, why do you think, the next slide, please? Why, what do you think uh, are these changes like? What do you think is the impact of these cognitive thinking changes? It's interestingly today, the topic says 60 plus, the fact is that today the brain health is deteriorating even in as young as 30-year-olds. And one of the key reasons is that the brain doesn't engage in the same way as it was in the earlier times. But let me ask you this question. Can I hear some quick responses as to what does this change look like on an everyday basis? Why is it important to manage and retain your cognitive health? Quick thoughts while I gulp a glass. Yeah. Yeah, I know it looks a bit scary, absolutely, because it feels so unfamiliar. And it feels like you're losing control of things. And it's kind of fearful for the kind of information that's available outside. It's kind of scary. It looks like growing old is a very scary place. But it need not be. Of course, information upsurge, and I can't even begin to tell you the challenges with that. We know about things that we're never going to use in our life, and that probably has no relevance to our lifestyle, but we know about it. There's so much of information. Yes, entering a room and forgetting why. By the way, Vasudha, this is happening with 20-year-olds as well, because the attention span is gone and you're on one thing and then you're on the next thing in the next moment. And we aren't using our brain in the same way that it used to be. Recalling names immediately. Yes, recalling names is a challenge. Putting like a story together, it's like feels a little complicated. By the way, recalling names is a challenge with me. I guess it's been forever, but we all have some of these. Forgetting names of relatives and friends. One thing which happens often is that you remember a face, and you kind of see that face in your head, and you're like, that person, and it just doesn't come. The thing is, the more we stress about it, the more difficult it becomes to access that memory. So how do we deal with it, right? So you've got the picture that this is what happens. Can I see the next slide, please? What we need to know is that there is normal aging and that this is all a part of it. Do we really get worried if a 6-month-old baby loses the bowel control and does shushu? No, it's expected. He or she is a baby. It doesn't know. It doesn't yet have that control. When you're in school and you're a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old just learning the tables and you remember and you forget, expected. You're just starting to learn it. Likewise, age appropriateness is something that we've got to learn. And what is age appropriateness when it comes to aging and memory is that occasional forgetfulness is absolutely fine. I forgot where my keys are. I forgot names. I can recall them later. Or somebody tells me, oh, you know what, this is how it is, and you remember it. That's absolutely normal. But if your daily life is getting affected, that is, you spoke to somebody and you agreed to something and you had a conversation, and the very next day you can't remember, or you repeat questions and information as people grow older, that is a decline which is more troubling because their everyday life is getting affected. Okay, learning new things, of course, it takes longer. It's like, why do they say that old age is like going back to your childhood? Because your speed goes down, that's all. But you're much wiser, huh? You don't lose everything when you're at that age, but slowly you are taking much more time to process. Technology becomes scary for a lot of people, while I must say that one of the fallouts of COVID is that a lot of people who were scared of technology actually got onto technology because that was the only means available, whether it was video calls or chatting and typing, learning all of that. But once you learn, it stays. But when you look at it from the risky part, what you need to know is you need to worry if you are trying to learn and you still can't. You're just not able to do it. Then you need to probably consult somebody. Language is, I don't, I just wanted to say this thing to you, but I can't remember. The tip of the tongue moments increase. Absolutely fine. Don't worry. That's the medal you earn for living up to the age that you're living up to. But if you're constantly struggling and getting irritated and you can't find words, and if you're listening to people and you can't follow conversation, like you are not either able to give attention or you listen to the whole thing, but you're not able to get the meaning, right? Then start worrying. Attention, multitasking is harder. I guess sometimes it's harder for a lot of people, even when they're younger. But don't try to. In fact, enjoy the slower pace because the slower pace is actually going to keep you healthier. So don't try to multitask, stay focused, which is different from being distracted all the time, not even able to finish your task. Sometimes people forget their plate and meal and half finished food and walk. Now, that's a concern. If you're taking longer to plan a trip or a meeting, but you can still do it with a little struggle and help, fine. If you have total confusion, you can't make sense of what people are saying, even like familiar tasks like, paying for your purchases, while cooking, losing track of the ingredients and the sequence in which they go, you probably need a little more activity and attention. Okay. Orientation, where am I? What place is it? What time is it? Sometimes forgetting days and dates. It's okay. In fact, it's good sometimes to lose yourself and just exist. But if it is that you find yourself in your familiar supermarket and standing and wondering where is the exit, places which you regularly go to don't seem like they're comfortable, it's something to probably check. And if you can find that yourself, rather than wait for it to become more noticeable by others, the sooner you catch it, the more you can do to manage it better. Okay. Emotional social functioning, you want to avoid some gatherings because you're feeling exhausted, because you feel that you need a little break, you've had a little grief episode or whatever, that's fine. But constantly staying away, withdrawing from the people, Mood changes and personality changes are something which need attention. If your daily life is intact, overall, independence, your self-management in terms of your basic life functions is good, and your basic complex tasks of every day, of maintaining your routine, if you're managing with aging, absolutely fine. You're doing great, in spite of all the other aspects that we've spoken about. But if you feel that I cannot move ahead in my activity without someone telling me and somebody doing the thinking for me, then your brain's kind of given away its CEO position to someone else and something else. A lot of times in our culture, we encourage our adults, older adults, to step away from managing things and say, okay, now you've done enough in life, now take a back seat, and we, the children, we'll handle everything. And many times it's the older people who say that I've been doing this all my life. Now just give me a break, take charge. I don't want to think, I don't want to make decisions, and I don't want to be involved. The third situation that comes up is with the changes in technology and the world around us. If you haven't kept yourself abreast, it's scary, and you'd rather not make those decisions like getting OTPs or handling bank and banking details. And so you develop, start restricting your world. And that's the first step to cognitive decline. That's the first step to the brain starting to go into the slumber mode. Using too much of technology, watching a lot of YouTube or videos or information, however good it may be, is not the best way to keep your brain active. Now, some of you might notice that as you're listening to me, your mind is wandering, and some of you might actually be doing some other things. That's another challenge that we have, which is keeping our attention and engaging. So, what can we really do? Engage with the content if you have to watch YouTube. Pause it, think, reflect, write some questions, thoughts. And that's why in this webinar or in any webinar that you attend, it's important for you to make your notes or put your thoughts or respond, because you're not answering me. You're not telling me the answer. You're engaging your brain. You're keeping it active and alert, right? And so the thing is, the mind does wander. That's the nature of mind. And it is not very helpful that today, with the shorter reels and the smaller text and one line, our attention spans is down to, seconds. But it's our job to keep our brain engaged. Within the first 2-3 minutes of watching something, if you find yourself wandering away, bring your mind back. And if it doesn't come back, switch off that activity. Please don't switch off your car while driving if your mind is wandering, or any critical activity that you are onto. This is only when you're doing that mindless scrolling, or when you're talking to somebody and you find that you can't keep yourself focused on it. Right? Okay, so that's what this is. Any questions on this slide? I didn't want to break it up into multiple little different slides, and I thought that as a single slide information, it would be something much more useful to talk on. So if I have a quick question or something from you on this, anything that you'd like to ask? The next slide, please. In case you have, feel free to post the question. So the summary of that is that aging is inevitable. Changes are absolutely normal. You will have slower functioning, but it is intact. My dad is 85, and sometimes I have to, when I'm talking to him, I have to tell him the same thing about 2 or 3 times. But when I was 3-year-old, he probably told me 30 times certain things. So that's absolutely fine. But once he hears it and he gets it, it's just that so much easy, because he just works around it. He practices it enough, whether it's technology or whatever, banking functions or share trading and anything that he wants to learn. Once it's there, it's learned. But what you need to look at is decline, which is what I noticed in him a lot. The reason I got so interested in this whole thing is it started with my parents. And it started, they live alone. I mean, both live by themselves. I'm in Hyderabad, my brother's in Mumbai. And they manage their everyday life routine great. They're I mean, model parents in that sense. They do their yoga, they do their active stuff, manage their health and everything well. But the challenge with them was that their everyday life had become so sedentary and relaxed, and that they, anytime it was about traveling or doing something new, I found them wanting to not join us, or not want to do things. So it started as an experiment by helping them play some games or developing memory lists, and how can they manage their everyday tasks, like remembering what to buy and do things much better, and still be independent and not feel like, oh, I need someone, otherwise I can't function. How can they maintain their independence, self-management, self-care, and the self-reliance longer? And with the activities, I found completely a new person emerging with both of them. And that's what led me to think that this is an information that I would love to share with everybody, that these are not secrets. These are some very common, easily available things that you can do. We all know about exercise and diet, but do we really pay attention to social connection? Do we form those kind of committed groups? Do we manage stress? And most importantly, do we have enough mental stimulation? You aren't in the hot seat anymore of life, where you're making 20 decisions a day or a minute. I don't know what you live like, but you're coming down to lesser and lesser and lesser decisions, and lesser and lesser and lesser problem solving. And so the mental connections that you form, the wisdom that you gained, slowly starts rusting. And that's where you want to kind of make an improvement in and be able to see how you do that. Right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course. The hard one, it feels difficult right now. And one of the things that you could do in when I'm reading the chat is Sudoku. If you're finding it difficult, start checking whether you're getting too anxious or worried about the fact that you can't do, right? Start looking at it as from a problem solving angle. Where am I getting stuck? What kind of challenges am I facing? What do I really need to do to solve this problem? Now, that's an activity that will actually help the brain to figure out a solution, and it'll help your brain. If you really can't do after everything, well, accept it gracefully. That's a part of aging. And then find out another new activity that you can do better than this. And that's what is a great solution for it. So now the next slide, please. Let's do this quick game. Okay, I'm going to ask Rakesh to put everybody in a breakout room. Okay, so the activity is going to be for 5 minutes. And some of you, if you just don't want to play, it's all right. Let your team know that I don't want to be playing, but it'll be great if you play, because it'll give you a sense of what I'm talking about rather than me telling you what this looks like. So it's called the name game, and it's a very simple activity. Once yes, Parul, I will suggest something to you. Let's go through this game first, and maybe this game could be one of the answers to that the question that you have. While you're being put in the breakout rooms, here are the rules. The person whose name starts with A, let's say if there are two people, if your name starts with A, then of course the name with AA or AB. Do you know, does everybody know how to decide the name? Otherwise, the person with the name starting with B or C, whichever is the first alphabet, is the leader of the group. Okay, so that's the first decision your group will make. Who's going to be the group leader? The rules are the person whose name starts with A. Suppose if there are two people with A, then AA, AB, or AC, you decide on that. The third is, if it's not alphabet A, then B, C, D, whichever is the first alphabet, that's the group leader. That person will start. It's a very simple game. I'm sure you all know this. Will take a name of a country, a city, a locality. Okay, so it's a country could be like, say, India. A city could be like Hyderabad. A locality could be like Begumpet or anything like that. Any of these three categories are allowed. So let's say the person starts with India. India ends with A. So the next person, now the leader will decide the sequence and probably assign numbers to everybody, who how many numbers are there in your room. So let's say the leader assigns numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So the number one will say another name of a country, a city, or a locality starting with, I said India, so ending with A. That person will say a name with A. The third person will then use the ending letter of the second one. So if it's India, let's say I said Africa, again A. So I say, oh my God, now all the names coming in my head are beginning with A. But do you get the sequence? That's all you have to do. Now, till you come back from the breakout room, you're going to continue playing this game. Now, what to do in case somebody forgets or doesn't get a name? Don't notice what's going on in you when you're not able to get a name, and you can just say pass to the next person who will then add on to the name. Any questions about this? Fairly simple, easy game, right? Do you want me to repeat the rules once again? All right, then can we have a 5-minute breakout room, please, so that they can decide the leader and play this game? Yeah, any country, any place. Let's say if I say Hyderabad, now it ends with D, right? So then you take D. A city, if it ends with I, then the next person will choose a country, a city, a continent, a locality with that particular alphabet. Okay? So just for I will put can you just see this example? Right? So India ends with A, Allahabad ends with D. The next person could say Delhi, which ends with I, then Italy. So the game continues with the next person using the last alphabet of the country, city, locality, continent that you've said. All right? So can we have a 5-minute breakout room activity, please? Rakesh, will you create the breakout rooms? It can just be a random assign. It takes longer to understand. Visual can help, because auditory is sometimes like the brain is like too much of processing. But definitely, yes. I'm sorry, I can't see your name. I just see you as guest. But yes, it can help. Visual can help with aging.
Ma'am, is it possible for you to control? Okay. Shravani ma'am started the breakout room.
Okay, but this is a one room. So we have 12 rooms, is it? Okay. No, this is just one room. Can I do that?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay, right. I'll do that. Okay, it's going to take a second before the previous activity room breakout happens. So in case anybody, some of you don't want to join the room, you could stay here. But I invite you to join and just experience what this feels like, because, learning about it just as a concept is different from experiencing it. Another 20 seconds and I'll recreate the rooms. All right, so your room should be open now. And I'm going to keep it for 5 minutes. You should get an option on your screen saying you are invited to join the room.
And yeah, there was just one person in my group, so I just moved that person to a different.
Okay, okay, perfect. I couldn't see that. Yeah, I thought you would also join in the game.
I just got out of the room because I was sort of alone.
All right. No issues. There are still quite a few people who've not joined, but few people, right?
Yeah.
That's okay, I guess. Mhm, 2 minutes. Those of you who are here in the room and have not joined, if you have any questions or thoughts, you could feel free to share here. And we could talk about that. Oh, I see some problems. Some people have returned to the main
Main
room.
room. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Room 1. Okay. So it's another minute anyway, so I'm not going to assign you to the rooms. Because we're going to just anyway move out, but I hope that you had. We could just play the game here right now. The people
Yeah.
who have just come back from the room could just start a game right now over here, and because we just have a minute and then everybody's going to get back. All right, so we're closing all the rooms now. I'm sorry for those of you who got disconnected and we couldn't assign you. It's a very short webinar, and my apologies that I couldn't send you. And you have to deal with this incomplete feeling of not having, played the game fully. But I hope you were there long enough to get some sense. Or I invite you to play this game with somebody back home. So
Were we supposed to say any countries, any places name, or was it a memory game?
no, any country's name.
Okay, it was not a
Any.
memory.
No.
It was a memory game.
No.
Okay.
But memory in the sense, you do have to recall based on your memory of what you remember, but you could use anything.
Yeah.
All right, so those of you who are back, let me ask you, did you get a sense of the game? And tell me notice how you're feeling right now. What's the energy? What do you feel something happening? Is there some energy? Is there any difference or no?
Yes.
Okay. Excitement, happiness. Just notice, just take a moment right now as I speak. Just close your eyes and notice what's happening in the body before the game, after the game. Now this game, yeah, you feel alert, you feel active. Now, I'm sorry for those of you who didn't join or couldn't join because of various reasons, but this is a game you can play at home. It's one of our favorite games at home. And I tell you, the names my dad and mom come up with, I have to look up on the phone to look, whether it's really something. Like I remember my dad telling some name of some small town, and I'm like, no, this can't be. And he's like, no, this was a town. This was before independence. This is what it was called. And it was the small gauge train used to go there in that place. I'm like, wow, you remember all these details, right? And I looked up, and yes, it was some name which was really true. Yes, I know. I'm sorry, Yasmin. And also, one of the things that I've started doing is we put together these groups, and I have these games of older people where you are not just, there is a difference between just playing and playing with an intention of creating some value for your own brain and for yourself. Okay. Now, socializing is great. It's a very, very wonderful way to keep yourself involved and connected. It's a great insulation for your brain. It's a brain protection strategy, as well as gives you so much of fun. But anything which has you really make the effort is where the brain is now actually doing the work. So even just playing by yourself is good, but when you play a game like this together, there is a different sense of engagement that comes in. Yes, of course, Antakshari gives you great joy and lots of songs to remember and sing along with as well. So now to the next slide, please. Now, this is one of the games that you could do. Likewise, you have so many other memory games and things which could be utilized. So here are the two key things that you have to know about yourself as you're aging and what you want to focus on. We have these two brain systems. One of them is called the reflexive system, meaning that we don't really have to think about it. It's like you're walking and you don't even notice, but somewhere in the periphery, you notice something is lying, you just step aside, you keep walking. It's fast, it's instinctive, it is something which has got wired, it is with your survival, linked with your survival, and you don't really think, like say a truck is coming at you full speed, you're not going to stand and think, okay, what is the speed of this truck? Do you think it's going to hit and kill me? No, you just see it coming fast, and before you even know, you are out of the harm's way. You've taken action, you've jumped aside like you've never jumped before, and then you wonder, like, how did I even come here? Because it's beyond your conscious awareness, the reflexive processing. Now, as we grow older, a lot more things go into reflexive processing, like our habits, our routines, And that's another reason. And by the way, as we grow older, this brain stays strong and it gets stronger with age. That's why we prefer the same routines. We don't like if our things are moved away. Emotional memory, which is where, like good or bad experiences, things about our childhood, about when we were raising children, and we remember stories of success that we might have had, they just stay intact in our brain. The skills like riding, swimming, anything that you worked at, let's say you were, let's say anything that you have gained your expertise in over years, whether it stays inside you. You can just do it without having much trouble. As you age, actually, you improve on emotional balance. Like you're no longer startled by the same things that as a child or a younger person you were. You're no longer triggered in the same way. That is if you're maturing and growing in the right way. But this reflexive brain is like the rabbit. Even before the question is said fully, tuck, 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 the answers start coming to you. That's unconscious and it's uncontrollable. It's automatic. The second part is the reflective brain, which is slower. It's more deliberate. It's like, let's take a step back and think what's happening here right now. It's higher order thinking, like decision making, problem solving. It's where wisdom can be harnessed. And that is the part of the brain, sadly, which starts declining with age. And therefore, we might find that we become rigid. We don't like change. We hear new things and we dismiss them. We don't want to learn new systems. We're very happy with what the world was and we just want to stay that way because that feels safe. But that's really not very helpful for us. What we need to do is to now make an effort to keep this active. When we are younger, the work and life demands from us keeps this reflective brain, well, hopefully active, and we just get by. But as we get older, we don't solve problems, we don't make many decisions. Our working memory is weaker, obviously, because we aren't using it as much. We aren't engaged with life, we aren't engaged with our everyday living. So we become more and more rigid and closed if we don't use this brain. So the next slide, please. What do we need to do then? We need to play games which keep us happy, because remember, emotions and brains are, and thinking, they are also connected. If we are feeling frustrated with our everyday life, if we are irritated with our own self because we aren't as fast anymore, if we are scared about aging, if we are feeling clueless about the world we are in, then that emotion is creating its own problem in the body, because emotion is linked to physiology, is linked to our stress hormones, and that's creating disturbance. So it's important to manage emotions as well. So how do we do that? Can you show me the next slide, please? No. Okay. So we do this by looking at how do we move from just being older to becoming wiser. Wisdom is a choice. Wisdom is not automatic. So the younger brain, when you're younger, it's kind of more, quicker, and you're moving fast and you're doing things. But as you're growing older, you want to start harnessing the wisdom. And that happens when you think about your thinking. You learn about reflecting. So what I shared earlier, let's say for this person who was sharing about the Sudoku problem, I'm not able to get it. Notice, okay, what's happening to me? Oh, I'm getting anxious because I can't solve the problems like before. I'm getting scared. I'm worrying. Okay, I want to move away from there because that's not helping me, even if I'm solving Sudoku, because the emotions are connected to your physiology. Anxiety and worry create stress. Stress releases the wrong stress hormones, which is not good for my physical health, and neither am I getting better with it. So I want to look at it and say, okay, so now this is the challenge I'm facing right now. So what knowledge, what can I do? How can I take a step back? How can I solve this problem? Who can I talk to? Who can I connect with? Who can help me with this? And sometimes when there are changes that happen, which we cannot do anything about, and my dad deals with myasthenia gravis. So for a long period of time, he couldn't eat solid food, and he was just living on soups and dals and liquid foods. And it meant that he was really slowly withdrawing and not wanting to come out and go with us and socialize because he felt he's going to hold us back and, he can't eat anything. Till we made the changes and we worked through that to understanding, accepting. This is a condition which isn't changing. It's never going away from now till the end of life. And gratitude for what you can still do, to not stopping till we find a solution that we need. So for about 7 years, from 2015 till 23, no, that's more than 7, 8 years, he was just on liquid diet, but he was doing his yoga. He was going everywhere. We were holidaying. We did whatever we needed to do to make sure that he was not getting out from the center stage of life. To today, when we were able to find a new doctor who could change the medication, to him starting to eat little foods again after 8 years and enjoying that space. It is through these transitions, it is through this wisdom, it is through use your wisdom and intuition that you have gained, regulate your emotions, don't become rigid, don't become pessimistic, don't become this is what there is a solution to every problem in life. That's it. Some problems you have to accept and find alternate ways to work around it. Some problems you can just solve and get over it. Right? So that's the thing that you want to keep in mind. And now let me open it to question answers and listen to you. But the reflective system is trainable. That's what we worked with when I said, play this particular game. All right. So puzzles, exercise, mindfulness, meditation, you know all the answers. But it is, which one do you need? And that's where the expertise or the opinion of a professional can be valuable for you. But otherwise, if you are functional and managing your routine, even though you're slower, you're doing great. If you find yourself frustrated and emotions are bothering you, take help. Because that emotional charge creates a disturbance which will ultimately start like pickling your brain in stress hormones, and that isn't really very helpful. All right. So let's open to the questions. I think some of you have asked some things, and let's look at it. What else? Yes, Prasad, I see your response. Good experience.
And
All
before
right.
we move on to the Q&A, I'm just gonna mention some key points you've covered. Basic
Sure.
brain health basics. Normal aging involves some cognitive changes, including occasional forgetfulness and slower processing. There's a difference between normal aging and concerning cognitive decline. The brain has two systems, reflexive and reflective. Then you've covered normal versus concerning changes, occasional forgetfulness, taking longer to learn new things, tip of the tongue moments, and then concerning changes, daily life being affected, inability to follow conversations, confusion with familiar tasks. Then you've mentioned some brain health strategies, mental stimulation through games, social connection and engagement, managing stress and emotions, continuing to make decisions and solve problems, embracing wisdom that comes with the age. You emphasized on maintaining independence and continuing to engage in decision making, crucial for brain health as we age, rather than withdrawing from the activities. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, ma'am, for giving us such a wonderful presentation and a session. I'd like to now invite Ms. Shivani, ma'am, to take over the session and conduct the poll, followed by the Q&A.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manisha. This is while I do that, if the poll can be put, yeah. So, Manisha, this is a topic which is very close to our hearts. I've known you for 30 years and so impressed with the talk. I mean, we meet in social circles, but it's very different when I hear so much of knowledge and such a good presentation.
Thank you, Annie.
Yeah, and this topic is extremely needed in today's society, especially India is changing at a very rapid pace. We are urbanizing, we're getting into nuclear families, and gone is the old wisdom where we had people to guide us as to what is right, what is wrong, how do we deal with the situation. with nuclear families coming up, there is no pathway as to how to deal, what to expect. Just like when a baby is born, we don't know what to expect and how to deal with it. Similarly, when there's an aging parent in the house, or when we are aging ourselves, we don't know what to expect and how to deal with it. This is an extremely pertinent topic that you have come up with, and you are also enlightening us about what the situation is. What is it? And thank you. I mean, that was amazing. Thank you. And thank you to all the participants for patiently going through this and come. And I can see that all of you all are very passionate, interested about this topic. Yes. I'll just tell a little bit about the upcoming material drive that we're doing. Vishwa has been doing a material drive every Diwali and Ugadi. We want to bring back using used goods into fashion. There was a time when we were kids, we could use our sisters or our cousins' clothes or somebody else's clothes. My kids used to do that, and my kids still do that. But today, if I give a brand new stuff to somebody and say, hey, listen, my daughter hardly used this or didn't use this when her baby was born, can you use it? No, 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 we don't use old stuff. I'm not talking about, even the needy people are not doing it. It's important first that the affluent start using, the celebrities start using used stuff. So I want to bring that back into fashion. So we're doing it in Hyderabad. And the Hyderabad has more than 500 slums. And the kind of stuff, we've received almost 72 trucks last session, but that was sufficient to give only to 3-4 slums. And it is very nice that Safe Express and Geetams has donated their trucks for the weekends. We collect from different zones in Hyderabad in that weekend, and we redistribute it in the slums. And people are so happy. People have come back and said, listen, because even in the slums, everybody is studying nowadays. They have completed their degrees or their 12th, and they have like come back and said, listen, this whole year's clothes which we need to buy, we didn't have to buy because you all have shared such wonderful clothes. So yeah, with this, then I would like to talk a little bit about the upcoming talks. One is on dementia and Alzheimer's case, together for awareness, support, and hope. Speaker is Sadia Husruk, Program Manager and Psychologist at ARDS Hyderabad Deccan, on 4th October 2025, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. What happens is many times our WhatsApp messages, emails, or even the social media promotions get banned. It's extremely important that Vishwa Talks goes out with word of mouth. So please do help us with that, sharing it with all your groups and your friends and family. Yes. And another upcoming talk is Save Soil. Trishant, I don't think the poll is working. Can you just check it once? So again, the next talk is Save Soil, Protecting the Foundation of Life. The speaker is Sneha Koppula. This is also another topic very close to my heart. Today, with all of us using plastics in some way or another, we've suddenly noticed that soil, microplastics has become a part of the soil, even if you're very careful and you're making composting in your house and you're segregating, even if one plastic packet goes into it and it's not identified at the earliest, it becomes into minor plastics, and it's entering our our bodies, into our brains and all. And so though Sneha Kapula, a permacultural facilitator and educator and person who's passionate and brilliant about permaculture, she was born up in that environment, in a field where permaculture was part of it. I specifically requested her to speak about soil because if we don't protect it in our generation, our coming generation is not going to live healthily at all. We don't even know in what kind of forms their bodies will be if we don't correct this at this point. This talk is on October 18th, 2025, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I request everybody to please share it with as many people as you can to make, to share the knowledge that we are coming out with. Yes, with this, I'll move on to the question and answer session. Shmuel, would you like to answer your question? Ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. You hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting and insightful presentation. And I want to ask the question, how, according to your opinion, social and economic well-being can support improvement cognitive well-being?
Okay, so your question is, how can social connections improve cognitive well-being? Am I right? Okay.
Yeah, social connection, social well-being.
Yes, it's so extremely helpful in improving the cognitive well-being, because when we talk about social connections, socializing is one of the most complex cognitive functions that our brain engages in. Understanding others, the body language, what they are saying, engaging with people in different levels and different ways means that the brain has to constantly make decisions about the interactions. And it also means that there is this constant activity that happens in the brain. Now, if it's the same social group, then again, it gets into a comfort zone. And if you're doing the same activity again and again, then it slowly becomes a part of your reflexive, like, habitual thing. Anything which is a habit in an old age is not a great idea, other than the habits you need for living well. Whereas in childhood, developing the right habits and systems is what actually leads to success. In older ages, you want to constantly challenge and break the habits and look at how can you exist in ecosystems or spaces which don't feel familiar. And that's, so what you could do is like travel with your social group to new places. Could be like find a new game or a new thing that you learn with your social group. And that could bring in the complexity or up the level of complexity from it being the same comfort zone. But it's extremely important to have a good social group. And it's extremely important to have a group learning social group. And those two, if they can be together, that's great. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes. I think Parul had asked a question earlier saying some activities for mental stimulation and exercises for an 83-year-old person. You can take any activity that that they find interesting, from building things, putting things together, to coloring, to any creative work, to learning if they are physically agile, dancing, because dancing is a great way of not just getting physical exercise, but learning. You have to remember the sequence of steps. So the memorization of the steps and being able to coordinate the various parts of your body to perform is extremely good for your brain. So if you're looking at an exercise and something to stimulate the brain, that's good. Now, if they're not physically very active, obviously you don't want to get into dancing like that. You could start with chair dancing. Any coordinated activity with just the movement of whichever part that is okay to start with. There are a lot of puzzles, the Sudoku and all those other games which are useful as well. Okay.
So one thought is, there was a time where people accepted old people in social gatherings. But today, as we age, people feel they're being judged and they withdraw. What do you advise both the people who are aging and the people who are in social circles when they see someone coming in?
Can you just repeat the question for me again? I was a
Please
little
say,
distracted. Yes.
When aged people come into social gatherings, the aged people feel judged, and the people, and so they withdraw. The aged people withdraw. They stop going more and more often. Because the eating, something falls down and it's dirty, or they are not able to comprehend when someone is saying hello, as their faculties are coming down a little lesser. And then the people who are watching them are being judgmental, or sometimes somebody is sympathetic, but how does one react to it?
Okay, so like I did right now, I was a little distracted with the chat and I didn't realize that. So I said, can you repeat the question? So if you're a person who's lost track, it's all right to ask that question and say, can you repeat it? Now, let's say if you find that you're slower in processing, request the people and say, can you go a little slow? This is a little fast for me to process. Now, aging and the age-related changes are normal. If you accept them, embrace them, then you can ask what you need from people. Okay, whether it's slowing down or whether it's whatever it is that you need. You can even say, look, I'm kind of a little sloppy sometimes now, like I was when I was a child while eating, but there's no need to feel shame and guilt. You are here, you exist, and aging has whatever, or your diseases or your health has whatever challenges it has. So learning to embrace that if you are the older person, and if you're the younger person, well, you're going to get there someday. And so there's no point in being judgmental. Now, if you're an older person feeling judged, it's not your monkey. Let people judge. That's not your problem. You look at what I need to be, who I am, and how I can embrace that about myself, right? Your dignity is with you and not in how people treat you.
Wow. Wow. Okay. My next question is from Mr. Surupaneni. What puts me off in a conversation? Surupaneni, would you like to ask this question yourself? Please raise your hand. I wouldn't be able to find it otherwise. Okay. What puts me off in conversations is there are people who are judgment. Okay. You can unmute and ask him to ask.
Yeah. No. It is just expressing my feelings. You can say that's it. It's not, as you can see, it's not a pointed question, but just an expression of maybe yes, a little bit of frustration these days, because see, like as we age, we are supposed to become wise and more tolerant. Unfortunately, maybe the society, the complexities, maybe make people. It's not like that. It's not the way in which we expect people. So suddenly put off in conversation. That's what I said.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And one of the ways in which you can look at it is that that's what I said. See, wisdom is optional. Growing up is not. Growing older is not. And I wish that everybody started thinking of wisdom or using the reflective and the slower system as upgrading their own software and becoming more wiser. But sometimes people are so scared of the change that they'd rather stay withdrawn, insulated, not change their opinion, not deal with things. And it's safer to just sit and judge than to experience the change and to put yourself out there in the game. And somehow in our culture, being older and trying new things is not it's not encouraged a lot. If you go abroad, you see people at 85, 90 learning to swim and making mistakes. They're absolutely fine. But in our culture, it's expected that now that you're older, you should know 100% of things. And so sometimes they stop themselves because of the guilt or the shame or what will they say, and I can't fail. But, well, you go all the way out and fail as much as you want, but learn from it.
Exactly. For example, counseling, like this conversation we are having today, um, the reflection part. See, like all of us are here, we are happily joining this conversation. We are speaking our mind, but those people who who really need to be here are not participating today. So who would tell them? See, why you feel frustrated is so we keep adapting ourselves. At least I suppose I am not giving a pat to myself, but I feel yes, we are resilient enough. But but I'm sure people when they learn to appreciate others' point of view, that's when society will be better. So, like you rightly said, even counseling is considered as a kind of a stigma, or people are not aware. Who will take um, a person to a counselor?
Yeah.
They refuse. So how can it?
So that's the challenge. So that's where the self-management and your own involvement in how you reflect about life and life journey, if it can start early, like at 30, 40, 50, then you're open to that later. Now, if you have someone who's completely shut off, then there's no point in talking, but you could introduce some games and activities which could be something as simple as coloring and doing things together. Because I found that my mom was a little more resistant initially in things like, what is this? Like she'd tell me in Hindi, "Tum mujhe chote bacche ke jaisa treat kar rahi ho. You're treating me like a child when you're telling me to do these things." But I would like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. So I had my children tell them, but they can't say no to their grandchildren. So I said, okay, let's do this. So everybody, in the family sitting down with colors, and everybody has to create something of like an art project out of it. And I can show you those papers. And all the time she's like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I can't even draw, and look at my lines. And I'm like, what are you doing? So much of self-criticism. Now that is not good. So the minute I could pick that, then I started helping her with, you know what, this is normal aging. You don't need to be critical of yourself. It's all right to want to be slow at this age. It's okay if you don't, I'm okay to walk at your pace. So as she felt more accepted and encouraged, as she did those fun activities, she started opening up to, okay, now tell me, what should I do to remember my list? I keep forgetting, and stuff like that. But prior to that, it was always like, Ab kya? Now this is it. I'm my age. I can't do anything now. This is it. I'll forget. It would be like that. So, and sometimes people don't change because they just not ready. And in that case, well, you do what you can do for you. And you pray and you bless them and you love them and you do what you can for them. That's it. But you don't make it your monkey so that now you are suffering or your cognitive well-being is at risk because others aren't changing.
Okay. You mentioned grandchildren. So grandchildren definitely have a more soothing effect than children sometimes.
They can command their grandparents. They can make their grandparents do anything. So my weapons are my children. Please tell Nana do this. Please tell Nani go do this.
Thanks for your lovely interaction, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is from a guest. My sister, 62, lost her memory after brain stroke and got treated in Apollo Hospital. Any possibility that she can recollect her memory? She retired from bank service. Please suggest. She's in Hyderabad.
Okay. It will need interaction with a medical practitioner and a person or a coach or a psychologist to work with. We don't know the kind of damage, whether that is possible or not medically, because there is the biological aspect, right? So, but what can be done is definitely looking at how to accept whatever your situation is at this point of time, and to work with it so that moving forward, what is possible can be done with grace at ease, right? So it will need a much more deeper connection and interaction to understand the situation before I can answer that.
Yeah. Hi, Manisha, one more question from Mr. Nirmal Agarwal. I'm 75 years, perfectly well, engage myself with students in schools. What steps I need to keep myself perfect for the next 10 years?
Okay. So you could, since you're engaging with students, I'm sure they're keeping you young. That's one of the best ways to stay young, is to be with younger people. because your goals keep changing. What you could do is maybe if there is a health profiling that you want to do for yourself, just like a check or meet with a counselor, therapist, psychologist to see where you are and how you're doing, just for yourself, like a baseline, and make some goals for the next 10 years. When you say, I want to be perfect for the next 10 years, what do I see myself doing at 85? What are the activities? What are the social, emotional goals for myself there? Fitness goals, and then maybe work backwards to see what actions you need to take from now to reach that part of the goal. So that would be concrete and specific about what you want at 85 from yourself.
So, when babies are born, at every stage, okay, this month, this is how you will feel when the mother is pregnant. First month, what to expect. Second month, what to expect. Which month, what to expect. Which year, what to expect. Right from 50 to 90, I don't see that much of awareness on what to expect in which year, in which decade, and what precautions to take.
Yeah.
And both as the person going in that journey and the child who wants to take care. Is there anything you would like to say on the decade wise?
Well, it's a very comprehensive ask. And I am currently now, whatever I have done over the last 8-10 years with my parents, and I'm putting it together in a manner where I would be able to share that information for people. But essentially, if you ask me, there are multiple factors. There's biological, that is, what is your genetic predisposition, and that's going to influence your physical health. And of course, which is your own activity in terms of how I exercise. There is food, there is sleep. There are so many factors that influence age at every point of time. Okay. But if I were to ask to pick up one thing which remains valuable throughout aging, it is your cognitive and your well-being. It is your self sufficiency, which can be an insulation against various problems that come with becoming dependent. So maintain as much self-sufficiency as you can, as much of independence as you can within limits. Don't be unrealistic. Don't expect that, oh, I must run the marathon because I was able to run till about a year ago. If you've not been a sports person all your life, don't get into running at 70. But so understanding, now that's slightly complicated and a complex procedure, but if you can be self-sufficient, self-management, updating yourself to what it means to be a part of this world and the changing world, and not living in the world that you grew up in. That's, I would say, is the simplest and the first step that you could take.
That was a pathway that you showed, especially when you said to be a part of the changing world. I see that today there's a lot of changes happening in banking, and people are living up to 80 years. Previously, they would write a check and send it through someone. Now they can do it from their phones, from their internet, from their computers. This is a very critical life skill, which as you're aging, you can be more anxious in dealing with it. But what's happening is dependency of aged people on help if the kids are not with them or anybody else, and getting cheated has become very rampant. How do you advise people to address that?
Ask for help from a qualified professional and not a friend. So if you need help and support with managing finances, it's all right, think of it as investment in safeguarding your own self, like pay a chartered accountant or get someone who's qualified and dependable to guide you on it, rather than depending on friends and people and giving OTPs and doing things that later sometimes you regret and you worry about, you're anxious about, right? And financial independence, interesting, Vani, that you bring this up, because this is something so important. Maintaining your financial independence is another key to feeling more in control of your life, right? So that's something that is important as well. So manage as much as you can about your own, even if you're not managing the home finances. Be in charge of your own medical and on your finances. Keep your assets to yourself. They can go to whoever needs it afterwards, but keep that control a little bit.
You know, in India, in abroad, I've noticed people downsize their homes, but in India, it's very difficult for people with big homes to downsize even when they're not able to manage. Any advice on that?
It's a bit challenging because, you know, with older people, they get very attached to their things because that brings them comfort. And I kind of find myself conflicted a little on advising on this, because if it's something which gives them comfort, it's an essential part of feeling safe for them. On the other hand, making life processes simpler is also important. So I guess it would be something that they could be engaging in themselves as a process of how can I still be more independent and more feel in control about my things and the place around me, right? So I guess, Shivani, you know, you talked about involving people in the pre-loved items thing. That could be something, if they got involved in, they knew that the things they love so much will be loved by somebody else, they might not find it difficult. It's difficult when you tell them to dispose and bring everything new. I find my mom holding on to some of her old crockery and like, hey, but this is working right now, right? And this is nice right now. So I don't want to give it away. Now, if I force her and if I say it's not relevant anymore, it breaks her heart. I don't want that as well for her, right? So it's a little tricky place because emotions are involved there.
So next, this is from Yasmin Zuhair. I would like to know more about dementia, as my mom is suffering from severe dementia and have no clue how to help her. The doctors here are not helpful.
Yeah, I know it's a challenge. I think your next webinar is more focused on being able to give you more insight on that. But otherwise, I will be happy to help you if you give me a call, or we can have a detailed conversation about understanding the level and then what can be done about it.
Yeah. So how do you, this is another question, how to manage incontinence of an 80-year male?
Well, any suggestions, anybody?
So I these days people are using diapers and it should be encouraged. But I find it difficult when one of my own aged family member refuses to use diapers. Like he'd gone to Delhi to meet all his friends, but he didn't step out of the house because of incontinence. Just use diapers.
No, the thing is, their counseling might be helpful as well. Because why do I not want to use diapers? Because it feels like I'm losing control.
Okay.
It feels like I'm becoming dependent. It feels like I'm going to go waste. So it's probably connected with a mental condition where there is fear or anxiety, and it's refusing to acknowledge that it's a problem. It's a denial, right? So their counseling might be helpful to understand and come to terms with it, and not go into the fear mode that this is the first step and it's forever.
Wonderful, wonderful. Parents, people who have aged parents, what is your advice to them?
What do you want to know about
In
terms of
nowadays,
aged parents?
they're needing help morning, afternoon, evening. They want a help to come home, and help is difficult to get. And these days we hear that they're getting killed or they're getting stolen, or so how do we handle this new changes that are taking place?
So if you can't be there physically, right, security cameras are a good way to keep track. You know, you have today gadgets available that give you some information that you need to know to keep them safe. But always work along with them. Don't treat them in a way that they are incapable, or that now you are in charge, and so you know their opinion doesn't matter and you're going to do what needs to be done. Okay? Because aging is different from children. So when you're being raised, and let's say they made decisions for you, you really did not have the bandwidth to make decisions. So they have to make. That's the reason parents are there. And sometimes they are harsh, sometimes they are loving, whatever way they are, that's gone. Now that they are older people, they just need more patience from you. So involve them, engage them in the decision making, teach them how to use these things. Second is spend as much time as you can playing games and having a good time, creating experiences which are fun for them and for you. And that's how it becomes a joyful thing to do. I guess, I did not, when my children were younger, I wouldn't see my parents as much. But once my dad was diagnosed with this progressive ailment, and it was like, it took us 3-4 years to even understand what it meant in terms of lifestyle change. But subsequent to that, between my brother and I, we decided, he's in Mumbai, I'm in Hyderabad, that we'll visit as much as we can and we'll bring them over as much as we can. And so because we have to create some fun for them, we end up having a lot of fun together. They become very, very open. They're okay. And we are ourselves. Now, if you have filters that I can't be normal with my parents and I have a different way of being with my friends, but with my parents, and if you still have the little barriers there, slowly work towards breaking and creating a more open system, because that helps them to open up as well. But you can give them time. You can give them love and patience.
Okay, this is from Tamanna.
Hmm.
I hear, so Srivani, I lost my father 6 months ago. So my mom is weighed down by societal expectations of how a grieving wife should look, wear, eat, behave, compounded by aging, hearing loss impacting her, comprehension of the spoken words. I feel I'm losing my mother, and a majority of decline has occurred since my dad died. How can I help her apart from guiding her to society?
Avoid the society? Well, I think the first thing is, if you can put her on grief therapy or counseling, that will be helpful, because it's important to understand that grief is very difficult to explain in words. And grieving is almost as unique as each one of us has a fingerprint, right? That's completely unique. There is no formula that can be applied, except the fact that we can acknowledge that there is grief. And if she's 80, she's lived majority of her life with an identity of a wife. And now that identity is also, from that many ways gone. So that could be helpful. Second is, if you can get her involved with whatever soothing activities she likes to do. And I mean, coloring and being engaged in bhajans, whatever makes her feel good, maybe help her, that's why I said counseling can help her discover who she is and what she wants and what she doesn't want. It's okay to tell people. It's difficult in our culture, but it's okay to tell them that, this is okay, but please don't bring this questions and intensify things for her, because you're protecting her, and can't keep her completely away from society, because that's also not good for her. She needs to be a bit in connection as well. But it seems like a little more help would be needed than just an answer right now from me. I hope it gave you a sense of direction, though.
Sure. Especially the fact that you said, when you go out, ask people not to bring up questions that will make her get into anxiety. Yeah, that helps. Now, a lot of us are aging. Hair is turning white. Your bodies are changing shapes. Your cognitive capacity is coming down. You're no longer younger. And we have a society which says that one should be thin and perfectly shaped and agile and physically fit. I remember both of us having a conversation that, the definition of beauty can be changed. Is not what it was before. It's suddenly changed in the modern world. So could you first give us a little thoughts about your thoughts on the definition of beauty and the changes that are happening in the body?
Well, I can say only one thing for that. All our lives, I mean, I'm 54. All my life, I've thought about wanting to be slim and fit and this and that. And I am what I am still. I guess it starts with accepting where you are and what you are. And what I think, the societal conditioning, that's where the reflective brain needs to become more active and ask, how relevant is this for me at this age? How useful is this pursuit of this goal going to be for me? And are they even my goals? Are they even something that I need and want at this age? Or is it just something which was said and then I'm like chasing it like a little, I don't know what you want to call yourself, but I call myself the little doggy, that I'm just like, it's okay, that's okay, I want to go and do this. But do you really need it? So I think one thing which would help, Pani, would be to have goals for what life looks like. Most of us know what we want to do till the age of 50, 60, because it's like, I've got to earn, I've got to study, I've got to make a house and get children, get married. No, get married, then have children, then get them, grow them up, and then get them married and grandchildren, and now what? Right? So we've kind of got goals. And after that, the society has no goals for you. It's like, go die, go to the sidelines, just disappear. But with life expectancy increasing, you want to create goals for yourself. And interestingly, the most wisdom or the wise years for a leader are between 60 to 70 years of age. You could really explode if you wanted to at that point of time in terms of growth and really, really grow. So if you want to keep yourself happy and balanced, make goals for yourself till the last day.
Amazing. So I've that's something that I've been facing. Suddenly, in the last couple of years, I was getting white hair, and my body is just put on 13 kilos, and there's no way I'm reducing. It's not, no matter what I do, I'm not reducing. So as we discussed, I said, let me embrace my body as it is. And one thing I've done is I've started learning the pickle recipes from my parents, from my mother, to ensure that I can give the pickles to my kids. And the rituals and the traditions that my parents had or our family had, I started taking them up as goals, and I started implementing them little by little by little. And I'm so fulfilled about it. Thanks so much, Manisha. This thought process that at 60 to 70 years of age, you can create your own goals and you have so much to offer.
Yeah, of course.
It actually brings back meaning to a person's life as they're aging.
Yeah. So at this stage, we are the keepers of the wisdom, and then we can choose what to do with it. Let it dissipate and disappear, or document and share.
So one more thing I had done, I'm just sharing with you, in addition to pickles, because all the people are getting aged, and my mother-in-law did not know any ritual. Oh, well, she's 80 years, and I was asking her, Atma, if my daughter gets married, what should we do out here? Oh, we'll ask the elders. No elders left. She is the elder, and she doesn't know.
Yeah.
So then I went through books, I spoke to Ravi, and then he gave me some guidance, and I made all samskaras that a person should follow in a life. The 16 came up to around 16 commonly used samskaras, and then I wrote what they are, how they should be conducted, why they should be conducted. So yes, as you said, we are the keepers of wisdom, and it's time we take on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
The next question is Sushma Satish. Thanks for this wonderful, informative session. I'm 75 years old, retired college principal, engaged in traveling, socializing, learning new languages online. What more to do to remain physically, mentally active?
So Sushma ji, I will be sharing with the Vishwa team once I have this comprehensive thing which I have in my mind put together and ready, and that will give you a lot of insight what you can do. But as I can see, you're already doing something. I wonder if you're doing something in terms of social connection. One of the things you could do is you could teach people or look at how you can do some kind of social service of work because you already have. You could also look at mentoring teachers and other principals and younger or schools or something, especially if you take up, let's say, low income schools and places where they have good intention, but they may not have access to experienced people. So that just comes to my mind as how you could use leverage on your experience into contributing to the society, because that's another way of, when I was talking about keepers of wisdom, that's another way of sharing your knowledge and expertise and having young leaders in this field come up. So that could be one of the things that you could do. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, this is from Pradeep Singh. As we are aging, I find it a challenge to be motivated. Any advice on that?
Set goals that call you, that inspire you, that want you to do something about it. Because motivation is like I said, unfortunately and sadly, the world around it's all about managing old age and sickness, and nobody's saying live. So find things and reasons to live and live well. That's where you will get your motivation.
Parul Agarwal has her mother, 83, I think, who's also participating. And she could grasp as much as she could, but it was a bit too fast for her. Any one or two sentences in Hindi so that she could take something back?
So uske liye, if she's still here, so one is, जब मैं ये वेबिनार स्लो करूंगी और मैं एज अप्रोप्रिएट ग्रुप और सारे लोग जब उसी एज ग्रुप में होंगे, तो उसका जो तरीका होगा वो थोड़ा अलग होगा. आज हम बहुत मिक्स्ड ग्रुप में थे तो आपको जल्दी लगा, बट व्हाट यू कैन डू इज आप पारुल को बोलें कि पारुल, अब तुमने तो जल्दी जल्दी सब समझ लिया होगा, अब मुझे तुम समझाओ इसमें से क्या क्या करना है. सो पारुल, दैट्स अ टास्क फॉर यू नाउ on this part. That this is available on YouTube for you. आप उसको slow करके देख लें, pause करके देख लें, and you can understand that. And if you have questions, I will be sharing about the program later with Mani and Vishwa Group, and if it reaches you and it finds you, we will do more work.
There are a lot of acknowledgements, Manisha. I'll just read a few. Abba Iyengar, thank you. This was very enlightening. These are issues affecting everyone. Young people who are taking care of elders, of course. Okay. The next question is from a guest. For old age, how to make target physical fitness? What do you suggest?
I think the best person would be someone who's qualified, a health professional, exercise person to guide. Or I find that physiotherapists are often better instructors in old age because they understand your body's condition, your ability to do certain things. And I don't want you to, of course, get hurt and by suggesting things. But what you can do are the simple movement exercises even while sitting, like, whether it's your hand, there is a lot of content on this available online as well, like chair yoga and things like that, if you find that movement is not. But start with consulting a physiotherapist, because if you have any, let's say, knee pain or any degenerative issues happening at this point of time, they will tell you how to work in a protected manner. Joining a gym may not be the best thing, or asking a regular exercise consultant may not be the best thing to do, because they work with people who aren't dealing with conditions or aren't moving towards old age. So if you've already been doing, your body knows. If you want to start, consult somebody and then begin.
Yes. Another question from a guest. In old age, it's very difficult to move from one place to another. Especially travel has become a part of everybody's life in India. Do you think old age people should travel? How do you advise them to travel? What kind of groups do you advise them to travel?
Groups which are accepting of all ages, that's a good group to go with. Don't look at only people with old age. That's not necessary. We do have a bunch of friends. We travel together and we have older people and we have younger people all together, and we kind of just, go along with it. And sometimes we find the older people are more fun than the younger ones. That also happens. So I don't suggest that you just limit yourself to people with similar conditions, because that's not necessary. Plan ahead of time. Don't push yourself too hard is one thing that I say. So if I would take, say, 30 minutes for my check-in at security. If I'm traveling with parents, I'll keep 45 minutes. So plan ahead, work with what you have rather than pushing yourself through things. That's the paradox I'm saying. In a way I'm saying push yourself out of comfort zone. On the other side, I'm saying work with what you have. Don't push it unnecessarily. Understand your body's limitation. Please don't give up travel. If you love traveling, go. Travel is one of the best ways that can help you to rewire new information, new things, new activity. It's great. So don't stop that. But travel with people you're comfortable with.
The other aspect, if you are aged and you're traveling with a younger age, and they are accepting, how not to be critical
of them or
judgment
yourself?
of the younger group.
That is the reflective part of the brain, right? The reflex is like, okay, they are too different. They are doing too many things which are different, and clothes, what they are wearing and everything. Just tell yourself, it's all my old monkeys and they need to be in my zoo. I don't need to let them out on the children and get this whole place messed up, right? And make them their monkeys. It's so your time to decide about their life is done. If they are over 21, your job is done. If they want guidance, give. If they don't want, guide yourself. You are the project. Okay.
Tamanna is sharing a comment which I thought was very interesting. One thing which we did a lot with Dad in the last 1 year is record both audio and video. Whenever he would sit down with us to talk, this has become our dad wisdom collection to share with cousins, kids,
sweet.
grandkids. I have Dad reciting pre-partition days poetry. 1 second, it's just Gurbani, sharing experiences of partition, him narrating major incidents and minor fun things. I wonder if doing something may help people suffering from signs of dementia, listening to their own voice. Would that help kickstart their memory?
The challenge with dementia is that there is a kind of damage in the whole mechanism, right? So it's like, if you were to look at it, let me talk about a mixer grinder, which the blade is spoiled, right? It doesn't matter what you do and how you sharpen, it may not help at all. It could spark something because, well, brain does recover, but with dementia, often the damage is permanent. And so instead of looking at what can be recovered, look at where you are and what's your new baseline going to be. As it's medically impossible to sometimes get those memories back. And it's painful, and that's where the whole readjustment and support is needed to work with it and coming to terms with it for the family. Like, I remember for me, coming to terms with my dad's illness, he's 85, we feel much more in control, was very difficult. Every time the phone rang, because the doctor was like, if this happened, and then slowly this will fail, and slowly this will fail, and the lungs will fail. And so you have to, this is the last line that you have to have as an action to help. And it was so scary that every time he was calling or mom was calling initially, it used to be like, my heart was in my mouth. Till we worked on ourselves to change the context to say that, okay, every additional day is a blessing to have. And like you, we have created a bunch of memories and holidays, and God knows, I mean, may God keep him safe till his life is meant to be here. But I think one of the ways in which we can be doing well is to come to terms with it ourselves.
Yeah, got it. Wonderful session, much needed session, Manisha. I don't know if I'm sure if you have a glimpse of what you've just contributed. There are probably 50 people who must have heard you speak. too good. And there were a lot of acknowledgements from a lot of people. My Mitra Day, Tamanna. And Tamanna says, warmest of hugs to you, Manisha, from a daughter to another.
I'm smart Vani can tell you that. Yeah, and that's another great thing to share with them, by the way. Lots of hugs.
I know. Yeah, with this, thank you so much, Manisha, and thank you to all the participants for sharing your wisdom, your life experiences, and your questions, which I'm sure helped a lot of people. And thank you to the Vishwa Talks team. Each one of you all, some of you all have high fever, some of you all are traveling, and everybody has come together to make this happen. Wonderful session. Thanks, everybody. And with this, we close it.
Thanks, Vani. Thanks, Vishwa Talks, for giving me this platform. I'm really grateful to be able to share what I have learned with all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Please join in the breakout room, ma'am.
Yes.